it's Rob here. Okay, in this video I'm going to go through the installation of a new rear light for the Yamaha FZ-09 or MT-09 as it's known in Europe. What I bought was the custom LED Blaster X, which is a light that looks pretty similar to the OEM light, well, pretty much exactly the same, and I'll explain why I chose that one as we go through the video. So first thing you've got to do is take the seat off and just locate the bolts for that hold the OEM light on. There's only two bolts that hold on, and I think they're around 4mm Allen key. So just get the new light out of the bag. I've had this sat around for a while and I just haven't got around to installing it, so I'd get it on while I'm doing some maintenance. It comes plug and play. The connectors on the wires are the same connectors that will just plug straight into the Yamaha OEM wiring loom, so you can undo the wires that come from the rear light and just plug it straight in. So there are a load of other lights on the market. You can see how close this one looks at OEM. The lens is a bit clearer. It's got a slightly smoked look to the light, just because of the way the electronics are black, but the lens itself is clear, so it's very bright. Now the LEDs themselves are much brighter, so the light should be much brighter than stock, which is partly the reason why I got it. So just take those 4mm Allen bolts out, and it should release the light to be able to sort of drop down and then feed the wires through the hole where all the sort of cabling goes. So one of the reasons for buying this light, or some of the reasons for buying this light, so as I said, it looks stock. There's other ones that are smaller, like the Rhizoma one, and other manufacturers make smaller ones, but I wanted to keep something that's looks similar to OEM and is still pretty safe. It's extremely bright from the reviews that I've seen, much brighter than the OEM. It's also got integrated indicators inside the lens, so you'll see when I show later on, it's got indicators where the red LEDs are for the brake light, and they're not sequential either. The brake light turns off on the side that the indicator is on, so it's even more visible. As I said, it's plug and play. The reviews I read, gave it a pretty good reviews and good reputation. And it also has the strobe function, so when you brake, it strobes the light a few times, which is really visible. So you can see there, pull out the old OEM one, feed the cables through. The back of the custom LED light looks exactly the same as stock. They've done a really good job at copying the exact dimensions and measurements of the light, both the lens and on the back. So it really is, if you just wanted to plug it straight in and use it as a rear light and your only set of indicators, you could do that pretty easily. Just takes a few minutes. What I'm going to do is a little bit more complicated, and I'll explain why as I do it. So just feed those wires through. Those two, the green and the brown one, are the ones that power the indicators, and the larger one is the one that powers the rear light. Now, seeing as I've already got indicators on there that I like, the LED ones, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually have the LED function running from the light, from the LED indicators and on the rear light. So if I indicate right, for example, you'll see two lights on the right flashing, just for a bit of extra visibility. You can never have too much visibility on the rear of the bike, so people don't run into the back of you, and people know exactly what you're going to do. So to do that, I'm going to need to splice some wires, which is a pain in the bum because electronics is not my strong point. So if this is just a standard installation, it would be incredibly easy. The other easy way of doing it is actually remove the indicators on the side of the plate there and just use the rear light itself. Just use the light itself as a rear light and as the indicators. That's pretty easy to do too. Okay, so I've fed all the cables through. Just got to put the 4mm Allen bolts in just to hold the light in place while I get everything else hooked up. Okay, so that's ready to start on the wiring. So what I'm going to do is just test the light out. So you can see it does a little switch on display, and then that's just using the brake. You can see the strobe effect there, flashes 2 or 3 times. So the wiring works. So these two are the indicator wires. So the brake is now wired up, and there's also a grey earth wire which allows you to do different strobe functions, which I'm not really going to use. But if I test the indicator wire, so the green one is the right indicator. So I'm going to just plug that in where the OEM indicator would normally go, and then you'll be able to see as I put the indicator on, you can see it's flashing there. So the indicator, the LED indicator isn't flashing, the rear light is, because I've unplugged the wiring that was already in for the LED indicator. So now I know that the brake light is working. I'm just going to tighten everything up a bit, and then I can focus on getting the wiring right. I had those aftermarket indicators on already, so I've already spliced some wires once. What I need to do is do it again. So there's 2 brown wires there now, which are the left indicator. I need to splice them together so that the power goes to both the indicator at the side and the indicator at the rear light, and you can find those wires fairly easily. The green is right, brown is left. So I'm just putting bullet connectors on these so I can connect them up easily and then remove them if I have to. Looks a bit of a mess of wires right now because of the last time I did this wiring job. Okay, so that's all three connected. I'm just going to make sure that you should really put shrink wrap around this and use a heat gun. I don't have a heat gun, so I'm just using electrical tape. And then I've also taped off the end of that grey wire, which is the strobe function. So put the seat locking bracket back on. I took that off because you just need a bit of extra room to maneuver under there. Put everything back, tuck it in where it should be, and bolt that bracket back on. Okay, so that's what it looks like. It looks a little bit nicer than stock. The lens is a bit clearer, just a little bit nicer looking. So we should give it a test run now and see what it looks like. Find the key, that'd be useful. Okay, there we go. So that's the turn on sequence and the brakes. See that strobe effect, and that light's much brighter than the stock one. Okay, and then the indicators. So you can see both sides go. You can see the light turns off, half the light turns off where the red is, so it makes the indicator much more visible. And then if you put the hazards on, it also turns off the running light completely. You can see with the brakes there, it flashes between them when the brakes are on, so you still get the brake light effect. Okay, everything looks like it's working okay. Test it with the hazards. Okay, so the running light switches off and everything goes to indicators. That's really visible. Look how bright that is. If I put the camera down where a car driver would be seeing it, you can see that it is significantly brighter than the stock light. Okay, there we go. Hope you like that. If you do, like and subscribe. There'll be more FZ-09 content.